I'm not here to offend anyone, and I'm not going to apologize for anything that I say afterwards. And it's been my experience, and I need to let you know that in next Saturday I'll have 19 years clean. So, you just gave me a very, very, very nice anniversary gift, to have come to Arizona and speak at your regional. So I'm an addict named Richie, and I recover in the greater New York region of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm in the Brooklyn area of Narcotics Anonymous. All my recovery is in Narcotics Anonymous. I never had to go anywhere else. And my home group is the ultimate weapon group of NA, right? And at our home group, we have the speaker have a choice of whether he wants to read from the basic text or from It Works How and Why. It's a rotating step meeting, 1 through 12. We meet on Tuesday night at 7:15, and all are welcome, So if you're ever in town and you have my number, please give me a call. I believe that I'm speaking this morning to the elite part of the convention. See? I'm speaking to the people who would not leave the dope house until it was all done. Right? Right? So, you're my kind of people. Sunday morning is the cream of the crop. Right? We had to get kicked out before, like being told when the dope man is telling you to leave, you have a problem. Right? So, I'd like to just read some things. I'm not about just philosophizing in the book or anything. It just amazes me how this literature was written, and it aligns with my experiences. See, because I've learned that the literature don't lie. You do, a lot of times. And, the literature has always brought me to a place of comfort and understanding. And we have a service prayer in our basic text, and it reads, God grant us knowledge that we may write according to your divine precepts. And, I sponsor men only. I don't sponsor any women. I'm old school, man. I don't know, that book came down, and, I'm not into being, I could get real controversial, but I'm not going to use your podium to do that. What I want to do this morning is to, share about divine precepts. I believe, I wasn't a school guy. I got pretty much more educated after I got clean, and, I wasn't about school, and I used 20, and I'm not about a war story. I don't believe in sharing. You don't need to know how much dope I shot, and, I've used 22 years. I'm 53 years old. I was 7 years on the methadone program. I shot dope for 22 years. I was locked up in Rikers Island. I was in Brooklyn House of Detention many times. That's my war story. That's it. What my story is this morning is a success story. It's all about, my relationship with a God of my understanding, my relationship with Narcotics Anonymous, and about how to stay clean. See, because anybody could get clean, but could you stay clean? See, this is something that puzzled me for a long time, is what I needed to do to maintain some happiness in my life. And divine precepts, they told me in the beginning, they said, listen, you need to go and see Webster. And I went into meetings looking for Webster, and I didn't understand. They said, you need to buy a dictionary. A dictionary, man. Because the lingo that I knew was on the corner in New York, on 116th and Lenox in Bedford-Stuy. I was born and raised in Bed-Stuy, do or die, never ran, never will. That's a lie. I ran many times. And the whole thing is that it doesn't matter where you come from or what color you are or what language you're speaking. This is a universal program, regardless of. It's not about a black addict or a white addict or an HIV addict or a gay addict. It's about addicts in recovery, recovering, staying on the path and being here for each other. See, this is what I've learned in Narcotics Anonymous. And, if you come in here with your prejudice and your penny-ante differences, then you need to start to recover in here. See, because that's not where it's at. And I came from a very, very closed down. I was an only child. I was born and raised in an Italian-American family, and it was all about that stuff until I got here. And when I got here, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And, I had to look up divinity, and divinity is the quality of state of being divine, a divine being God. And it says divine. I went to the next word, and it says of relating to or proceeding directly from God. And the precept, I never heard that word until I got here, and it's to instruct. Right? For the people that say, well, there are no teachers. Well, we don't use the word teachers, we use the word leader. And leader, in our fourth concept talks about effective leadership. And effective leadership is someone who is staying clean and working a program and can be a power of example for our program. It says a command or a principle intended as a general rule of action for the ones that say there are no musts in NA. Well, there's 52 musts in the basic text. Challenge me. Count them. God is mentioned 259 times in the basic text. 100 times, and it works how and why. That's 359 times. The G word, not higher power, God. And I came from a very religious family, and they put me in a seminary when I had for about 6 months, and they did all this, and it took me all these years to come to Narcotics Anonymous to actually formulate a belief system. See? And I've learned that our spiritual principles are always under siege. Don't think for 1 minute if you got a whole lot of clean time or whatever it may be or how old you are, and regardless of. The disease is always on the attack of our spiritual principles. But we have the most incredible explosive weapon, and sometimes, or most of the time, we choose not to use it, and that's prayer. Prayer is the very vehicle that brings us in this place. See, when I was on 116th and Lenox, being 34 years old, not knowing what was going on and what happened to my life, I was a good kid. I was an athletic kid, and I'll get into that. I'm a single parent, by the way. I've been raising my children for over 12 years without a significant other. I have full custody of my kids. I've been raising them. My daughter's 16 years old, and my son is 14 years old. I've been doing that. I've been doing that as a man of God. I've been doing that because my recovery dictates and gives me the obligation to raise my children. Now, I'll take that applause. The reason why, a lot of times I say that, I've had men approach me in different places and different times and tell me, why do you share that? We're not all in the same place. I said, well, look, you need to make an effort to get in that place. Because our ninth step, and it works how and why, talks about being obligated to our children. Read the literature. There's a lot of things in this literature that tell us exactly how we and what direction we need to take to go to get some of the things that we think that we may need or want in our life. And I've learned that, that the disease should have killed me a long time ago because it had no idea what it was unleashing in the world. We all are at our best behavior at an NA meeting, but what are you doing 22 and a half hours in your life? How you living? This is the whole thing. You're going home and cracking your wife out, punching your husband out and stealing stuff from the job, or you're still walking up on a whole stroll, or still, doing all these, that indecent behavior and dirty deeds and all that kind of stuff, and then wondering why you don't feel happy. People come to meetings and they, either hear the message and, and get some glory out of this, or suffer and wander. See, because that's the deal. There are no bad meetings in NA, there's just bad listeners. See? That was a bad meeting, I'm going to try this meeting. Well, listen, man, maybe you didn't listen. See, in my life, which is pretty occupied and pretty full at the time, when I go to a meeting, a meeting is a matter of life and death all the time. All the time. And, I've learned that the more weight and the more pressure that I get, the more I have to actively work my program. See, God has taken me from my nightmare. And I'm all about prayer and God this morning, and it's not because it's Sunday. Every day is Sunday for me. It don't have to be Sunday to be spiritual. You can't take one day out of the week and say I'm going to be spiritual on Sunday. And it's not about my religious background or where I worship and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not out here to violate any traditions, but the bottom line is I recover and I sponsor men of all worships. I've been in the mosque with the Muslims that I sponsor. I've been in the temple with the Jewish men that I sponsor. I've been in church with the Christian men I sponsor. And I've been with just guys out in the park that think the trees are God or whatever it may be. The bottom line is that where there's prayer, that's where I need to be. See, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm not biased to it, and you know, I've learned that God is universal, and God does for me all the time what I can't do for myself. And prayer is the most effective thing that we have, and we don't access it a whole lot. You know, I've learned that you can't do the right thing the wrong way. Right? I'm talking about like staying clean is not all of it. If you're here and you're under the illusion that it's just about staying clean, or you're under the illusion that maybe for a newcomer that if you just keep coming, the steps will get you, I believe that's a lie. You know, the steps don't get you. You need to be directed and taken to the steps. And that's the obligation of the people who are recovering in the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. You know, to be at a meeting and take them to the table and give them a piece of literature. You know, last night was the whole weekend in a nutshell. To see the newcomer come up here. That's why we're here. You know, it's not here because to party and to make all the meetings and hear all the great speakers and all that kind of stuff. You know, our regional our convention was this weekend, and it's been so nice. You know, Holly had called my house, and you know, I got invited here, and I said, you know, well, what about your convention? It doesn't matter as long as it's being responsible to the way I live. You know, when God calls, I believe that's a God call. You know, I'm not any better than anyone in here, or, you know, any more special than anyone here, because if I didn't show up this morning, there'd be just somebody else up here saying it. You know, there's nothing said that wasn't already said already. We just put a new take on it, you know. I'd like to get into a couple of things that I had in my book. It says, our higher power is accessible to us at all times. See, I'm talking about, like, all those years that I've done that stuff to myself, and when I wound up in that dope house, not knowing nobody's name but my own, and the flickering candles on the floor, and all that stuff, and you know, just about to pump that stuff in my arm one more time, and saying, like, what happened to me, man? You know, and I'm talking about the silent scream. Doubt is the enemy. It's a silent enemy. It's an enemy that'll take us and put us in complacency, and complacency is the enemy of recovery. And humility is the mother of recovery. To stay humble in this program, and to remain teachable and accessible and open. And, you know, it takes time to get to that place. See, we can't expect people to be somewhere where they're not. And if they're unequipped, they can't give something that they're not equipped with. You know, you can't force people to do things that they don't want to do. All I know is that I'm responsible for my own personal recovery. I'm responsible for what I do in my behavior in my life. You know, I have two beautiful children, my daughter Ashley and my son Christian. And, you know, don't think for 1 minute, I speak a lot about my kids because my kids are a strong part of my recovery. And part of that recovery was that at the times when I felt like I didn't deserve stuff and inadequate, I've looked in their eyes and I've seen God all the time. See, and I've developed a purpose in my life. You know, there's an order of which God puts things. An order. You know, there's an order. If a skeptic and a cynic would look at a dead tree in the morning and think it's dead, when the one that has a zest full of life will understand that in the springtime it will bloom its flowers. See, and I went from that cynic and that skepticism to having some faith and some hope. And never fully understanding what God has in store for me. Not always trying to architect the end of the day. Not always trying to get in the way. I've learned a lot now, most of the time, to get out of my own way. I don't create all those crises in my life anymore. You know, I was always crisis-orientated. I functioned good in dilemma and chaos and all that kind of stuff, so I thought. And always wondered, like, why? Why? It was always a question, why? Well, I've learned that the more I go to prayer, and the more I understand that I have a God in my life, and the more that I've learned this God from you, from Narcotics Anonymous, it becomes that it's not a theory anymore, like it says in the book. You know? I'm talking about spiritual voids. You know? There's a whole lot of stuff in here that talks about, you know, cultivating the gift. This is a gift. You know, by no right. You know, people will sit around and say, I should be dead. No, you don't. No, you're right where you're supposed to be right now. God took you from your nightmare and brought you here. Gave you that seat that you're sitting in. You want to give it up? It's your choice. You don't give it up because you lost your job. You don't give it up because you don't have enough gold on your neck or a new car or you know what, I can't get my kids back or my child died and my husband and my relationship. You use because you want to. Nobody forced me to use when I started, and nobody's going to force me to use when it's over. I stay clean as a result of the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. The first step teaches you that. If you're in the third and you're in the sixth step and the seventh step and you don't fully have a belief in God, then you're not in the sixth and seventh step. You need to come to a realization that you need to go back to 2. See? And formulate a belief system in here. And not your sponsor. See, your sponsor, my sponsor's not I spoke to my sponsor before I came down, and, I've learned, like, do you pray or do you complain? Right? There's a difference. I've learned about unselfish prayer. I've learned not to pray for things in my life. I've learned how to pray for you. See, I've learned that unselfish prayer is healthy prayer. When I start praying for things for me, I'm still in my self-centeredness. I'm self-absorbed. It's what I want, what I need, what I. This is a we program. I'm spiritually wealthy and I'm spiritually taken care of as long as I pray that you get what you want. And that's where I'm at. Believe it or not. Because some people could say, well, I'm not buying that, But, God takes a mess and makes a miracle. That's what he does. God is awesome. It's so awesome that, we do what facilities can't do. You can get the finest treatment center in the country. We have a moment of silence for a sick and suffering addict, and before you know it, somebody walks into the meeting. And that's how everyone in this room got here. If anyone in here thinks they took themselves here, then you're crazier than we think you are. We ain't that hip and slick. See, hip and slick don't get it. I was talking to Anthony this morning, and we were talking about, like, you can't intellectualize, for the brain surgeons that are in here, that you can't intellectualize this program. You have to be stupid and stay stupid to stay clean. They told me that when I got here, And I've learned that, every agenda that God has for me comes to pass, and it has some glory behind it. I believe that it's a breakthrough for me. I'm not a religious Bible thumper or anything like that, but I've learned that I give credit, and I've learned that the 12 steps are secretly hidden to be obedient to the God of your understanding. It's about serve. You don't serve, you serve God. You serve each other. You see, and it's the God in you that allows me to be have a strong belief in the God in me. I surround myself with men of God. We row in the same direction. We're on schedule. We're on point. Sometimes you just do things, it's redundant, but it works. See, it works. Doing the same thing. Having a plan. Leaving your house with a destination in the morning and making sure that you get to where you said you were going. Don't ever leave your home without a destination, because you never know where you're going to wind up. See? And that's for the newcomer. I had to learn that, at all times, most of the time when I'm praying, don't get me wrong. Now, I don't pray like, I'm not a Buddhist monk or anything like that, but, I know that I need to recognize God every day at some point of the day, if not how many times a day. Because I know that that's what the relief is. It really is. Now, you can't come to an understanding of a God of your understanding unless we go into 12 steps. See? And it's not about a step a year. Because if it took 12 years for me to recover, I'd be pretty sicker than what I was. And I'm not one to... You see, a lot of times, we contract the disease. When we say we won't, we don't. When we say things like, I'm never going to do that, that's right. You're never going to do that. See? And, I'm all about maybe motivating and, igniting some spirit in here. I looked at, that's another thing that I had looked up. I wasn't sure about what spirit was all about. And it talks about an animating or vital principle held to give life to physical organisms, right? A lively or risk quality in a person or his actions, you see? And, it's a type of thing that, when the spirit is dead, you're dead for real. See, my spirit wasn't dead when I got here. As long as you got something, you got a shot. And if you stay clean and not use, you got a bigger shot. If you surround and embrace yourself with people who believe in this program, I'm all about NA. I've been in NA since day one. I have found no need to go nowhere else. My sponsor's in Narcotics Anonymous, and we do a whole lot of stuff. You know, we do a lot of stuff with the book, and we get together a couple of times a year with guys that I sponsor and who they sponsor, and we get to look at each other, and what we try to do is we try to build weapons. You see, because all these things this is a briefing this morning. You see, this is a briefing, man, because the war is not the war on drugs, it's the spiritual warfare. It's a battle every day to get up in the morning and, you know what, and maybe like have to get your kids up and, you know, or maybe have to do a chore in the house and, you know, or go to work. I don't want to go to work, and you go to work and, you know, and all that, and it takes a lot for people like us to be motivated. That's why we need a whole lot of program. We need a whole lot of practice. Prayer takes practice. God will take you from point A to point B in a flash. And a lot of times, you know, are you ready to recognize your miracle? You're a miracle. Miracles defy logic. There's no logic in this room this morning. See? This is something that can only a God of a great understanding could put this together. Only. You know, there's no difference here. The only difference in this room is gender. It's females and men. And that's it. You know, we're all the same. See? We're all the same. And I've learned also that in here it also says about, in addition to open-mindedness, so necessary to working the steps, it is vital that we actively pursue the knowledge of God, will for us, and the power to carry that out in our 11th step. You know, and I've learned in my 11th step that, you know, it's not to start a relationship with God. It's about already having one and increasing its relationship at the 11th step. You know, I've learned that in our message is a message that is universal, and it's part of the message that we go in our workplace, in our families, and our siblings. We're the ones with the program, not the people that we deal with. It's our perception and how we treat people. You see, that's working a program. Recovery's doing things you don't like doing. It's easy doing things that you like. It's easy, but do some things that you don't like doing. You know, my mom. My situation is, you know, we're in a two-family house, and my children are with me, and my mom lives downstairs, and my mother's my greatest co. You know, and she knows how to push the buttons and all that kind of stuff. But it is in the morning that I don't wake up, whether I want to or not, and go downstairs and give her a hug and a kiss and tell her that I love her. That's my obligation as a son. I became a son in this program. I became a friend in this program. I became a father in this program. You know, and it's so special that I was given that greatest obligation to raise my children. You know, and don't think for 1 minute that your children aren't affected by the way you're living. You know, well, they don't know. And stick them in front of the television when you're inside, you know, getting your thing on and all that kind of, you know, I don't do that. I haven't done that. And I have to proudly say that because, you know, this is just how I was taught. You know, I didn't have to go through a knockdown divorce and all that kind of stuff. And I just took some direction. I listened to the men and the men that were there before me. And they told me, listen, why don't you write it down? Why don't you make a phone call and sit down verbally? And maybe you can work. And I did everything that they told me to do. And it worked fine. You know, I went into it with an open-mindedness. I went into it like that. You know, I called my kids before I came up here also. I called them all the time, and, you know, they're getting older now, and my daughter's 16 years old, and it's a hard place to be for a young lady to be in New York, and, you know, we don't live in a very suburban place. I live in Brooklyn. I don't live in the projects, but I live in Brooklyn, you know, row houses, and, you know, and I'm not going to blame the environment or the neighborhood, and, you know, it was a step up from Bed-Stuy, you know, but the bottom line is that I'm in New York, and I'm deep heart into Brooklyn, and, you know, I have to be a guardian angel with my children. My worst nightmare is my kids become who I was. See? And, you know, she's a 16-year-old girl, and I'm trying to find my way, and she's trying to find her way and put her stake in the ground, you know, and, you know, come to her independence. And, you know, and I was the one that had to sit down and talk about their bodies and, you know, how sacred their bodies were. And I had to sit down and talk to her about a menstrual period. And I had to talk. I was the one that done that. And I only did it with the courage from a God greater than me and from the experiences of you people. I sought and found the people and the women in the rooms and the men in the rooms who were doing this. We are great, great instructors for each other. Our precepts work very well in here. See, that's what this is all about. And, you know, I've learned that, you know, by praying only for the knowledge of God's will for us and the power to carry that out, we can avoid our former tendency to allow fleeting whims and superstitions to dictate the course of our lives. That God's got a plan and it's set. And there isn't anyone in this room that's big enough or large enough or smart enough or think that they got something more than anybody else that get in the way of that. God already knows the answer to the prayer before it's prayed. But you got to pray. See? Somebody had given something out today about God comes by invitation. And that's so true. You know, once I invited God into my life, and this is an NA God, man. I'm not talking about going in. And listen, I'll tell you my story. I'll tell you my story about back in the, before I got clean. I was running around with a young lady. I liked the girls that the more tracks they had on their arms, the more I fell in love with you. It was a Bonnie and Clyde relationship. You know, she was able to hold my gun and all that kind of, that's my girl, like that kind of stuff. And, we were out there one day, man, doing what we're doing, looking, and then all of a sudden I seen this guy that I knew that was on the methadone program, and I said, wow, you look good. And he says, yeah, man, I go to church. I said, well, what church do you go to? You look real good, man. I know you've been on the meth program for a good 15 years. And he says, I go to this church up on Kings Highway and in Brooklyn, and it's an old bingo theater, and, I says, and this was a time of my life where I was starting to scream, that inside, like, I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore, and I just didn't know how to get out. I knew when I was 6 months into this, I was done. I was done. I didn't have to take 20 years for me to understand that I couldn't get out. I was 6 months in, man, banging dope and knowing that, I'm not getting out of this. I know I'm in trouble. See? And, I turned to her and she said, I'm not going to church. What are we going to do in church? I said, listen, why don't we go down there? Who knows? So, we found out where it was, and we went down and we walked into this place, and it was one of these born-again joints. They were going crazy, man, banging tambourines. And, and I came from Bedford-Stuyvesant, and I used to love gospel music, and I was hanging out in the lot when I was a kid, listening to the pastor and all that kind of stuff. And, at that time, it was very racial in Bedford-Stuyvesant, the riots and all that kind of stuff, and you weren't allowed to do stuff, and there was curfews on the corner at 9 o'clock, and tactical police force would come out and bang you with a bat till you get in the house and all that kind of stuff, and it was crazy. Right? And, the music attracted me. Matter of fact, the other day, I was in Richie's car, and I go, don't they listen to soul music around here? I'm a soul man. They go, no, well, I said, let's check the radio out. I like R&B and rhythm and blues. That's what I like. So, I walk into this place, and they were all dressed up real nice, going crazy. And I said, wow, check this out, man. And she was like, let's get out of here. And I said, nah, let's hang out. It's like a party, They were giving us coffee and feeding us, and they knew we were we were lost souls from the street and wandered into this place. They knew, and they said, all right, everybody has to take a seat now. She was like, I don't want to take. I said, let's sit down, man. Where are we going? Got nowhere to go. We're already high. Let's sit down, right? So, we sat down, and there was this little black lady sitting next to me, and she said to me, she grabbed my arm, and she says, welcome, son. And a chill went through my body, and I said, ain't nobody called me son, ever. And I was looking at her, and, she was smiling, and I said, okay. And then all of a sudden, they played this music, and this guy came out, Pastor Vinny. Pastor Vinny walked out onto the stage, and, and to me, it was like, when I was in cocaine psychosis, I used to watch Billy Graham 4 o'clock in the morning, all whacked out of my mind, and, touch the screen and stuff, man, all right, all that kind of stuff. I said, shit, I'm getting it live. This is like the real deal here. So, anyway, he started talking about harmony and understanding and brother and all this stuff, and I said, wow, this is deep, this is cool. And then they said, okay, now is there anyone who would like to come up? And I was just watching, and the lady was going, why don't you go up there, son? I said, why? She says, go up there, come on, go up there. And I looked at the girl, she says, don't even think about it. You got me in this place, and I'm sitting right here, and I might not be here when you get back from wherever you're going, but, you go ahead, go on with your bad self, So, I got up. And there was something in me that was telling me, like, you know what? You need to get something. You need to do something, Richie. And I got up on this ledge. It was a thing. And then these dudes came out with bow ties and sheets. And I said, what the hell is going on? You know? And I was like, we were like 12 of us, and I was looking, man. He started down there, you know? And then he was touching these people, they were falling on the floor. I was like, oh, shit. Right? This is, if I'm lying, I'm dying, right? And I'm looking, and I'm saying, oh, my God, man. And then I'm looking behind. I said, like, I was embarrassed. You know, I had an image to maintain. I wasn't going back down to sit down, but I didn't know what I was going to do when he got to me, you know? And like, you know, he came in front of me, man, and he looked like, oh, man, you know, and these guys were standing behind me, and he said, what can I do for you, brother? And I says, well, you want to know something, man? I'm in the life. I'm in the life a long time. He says, well, I've been in the life. I said, what do you mean by that? He says, well, you know, I'm clean 10 years. I said, a man of God? Did you shoot dope? He says, I sure did for a long time. I said, a man of God shooting dope? You know? He says, listen, man, you want to get saved? I said, listen, do whatever you want to do to me. Do something. You know, because I ain't digging the way I'm living right now. You know, I mean, like, you know, I figured in my head I'd go down and come up clean, you know, right? I don't know. So I said, okay. So now he's pushing, man. You know, he's doing all this saying stuff, and I'm not going. I'm like fighting it, you know? You know? Then he just gave up. You know, and he says, okay, man, you know, and he walked over, and I came down off that podium, and I walked in, and I'm looking for the girl, and there all these people are hugging me and stuff, and she's like looking, I look through the crowd, and I said, what are you doing, man? She says, are you all right? I said, yeah, I'm all right, I feel okay. He says, do you want to use? I said, of course I do. So we took 3 pocketbooks on the way out of that church, right? And we said, thank God. You know, that was my experience with that. You know, and I said, man, we should go back. Well, I'll tell you something. It was only 3 months after that I got clean. You know, and I don't know if that had anything to do with it or whatever, you know, but I've learned that, you know what, if you believe in the same sick stuff that got you here, you're doomed to repeat. Try something new. You know? Believe in that I believe, and believe that somebody's believing, because there are some people believing that there's faith in Narcotics Anonymous, and there's hope in Narcotics Anonymous. And this is a program for a zest for life. This is a program that doesn't matter. You know, this is a program that God only takes the bottom of the barrel to carry the message. You don't come here clicking and bumping, having all kinds of stuff. You got to scrape your knees and hurt yourself. I know your story. God only knows, you know, I look out and, you know, I know the pain that you've taken to get to this place. It's a long road to come out of your house and get in a meeting. That's a whole lot of time and a whole lot of space, a whole lot of thinking just to come out of the house and get to the meeting. See? I know that because I've been there, and sometimes I'm there today. There are no exemptions in here. And it's arrogant to tell somebody it's not about using anymore. It's always about using. Then why are you here? This is the last place I'd be with you if I wanted to get loaded. See? You know, this is always about that. You know what? I got a bright, you know, every once in a while, we come up with a good idea. And I told my sponsor, I think I pray too much. You know? And he said, what do you mean? I said, man, I pray a long time. And he said, well, let me just tell you something. Watch which prayer you eliminate, because you don't know which one's keeping you clean. You got a point. I'll just stay praying. Matter of fact, I may pray even a little more now that you told me that, you know. But you know, what we knew about living before we came to NA almost killed us. It says that in the book. We sign our own debt warrant. We take ourselves to the electric chair. I know there's people out there biting their lip. I know there's people out there that are in relationships and they feel incarcerated and don't want to get out for the sake of the kids. It's not for the sake of the kids. If you're unhappy, you're always going to be unhappy. When you go out and you get some freedom, then you could display and give happiness. I've learned that. You know, I thought that it was this old tradition kind of thing. You know, you got to stay married. You know, I got married in '87. We got divorced later on. She left me and left me with the children. And I had just spoken at the Catskill Convention. I gave this great message, I thought. You know, I told everybody how great my marriage was. And I told them that we just rented a house in the beach in Long Island. And I got these 2 beautiful... And I came home and the bags were at the top of the stairs. I said, what are you doing? Where are you going? She said, I'm leaving you. I said, what about these kids, man? They're running around in diapers in the room in the back here. You can't be going, so we'll talk about that. That was a long time ago. And you know what? I wanted to use so bad, and that was I thought there was a guarantee and an insurance plan on doing your 5th step. Well, you learn how to do things like you used to do when you were using and not use. And it talks about that in our 1st step, and it works how and why. It says, right here, hold on. It talks about a variety of mental obsessions that have nothing to do with drugs. Huh? What are you talking about? The disease of addiction can manifest itself in a variety of mental obsessions and compulsive actions that have nothing to do. Well, wait a minute. I mean, I shot dope and I stopped and things supposed to be great now. No, man. You used because you didn't dig what was going on. You got out of life for a long time. And by the way, get a job. You've been on vacation 22 years. Well, I got people telling me I got to do well, you'll do a 90 and 90 when you come home from work. Or you go in the morning and you go at night. Or you do something, but get a job. Because it's about being responsible. It's about doing things for yourself. See? Our 7th tradition talks about being fully self-supported. And that's what it's about. It's about things of being self-support, that we don't tie ourselves into other people. And what we learn here is that we become independent. And independency is good. We become in conviction of who we are. And I'm trying to be the man that God created, not the one that I put together. See, the tough guys are in the rooms. They're not out in the street and all that kind of stuff. I tell my kids all the time, listen, I'm with the times. They listen to the music. I know about, I love you like a fat kid love cake. And, I know all about that. I'm humming the stuff. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm humming. I think I'm a rapper. I'm walking in the house and saying stuff and singing stuff that's sticking. I love you when they call me Big Papa. All that stuff. And my daughter goes, Dad, please, stop that. My friends are coming over. Don't do that when they come here. And, it's always like that. The friends think you're the coolest, except your own kid don't. Oh, he's the greatest. He's the coolest. That's my father. But I've gone through some trying times. I got a boy that both of my children are so blessed, and I've been so blessed with my children, and I've been blessed with the ability to be strong and to be a strong parent and a good dad. And to be there for them, and support them. And I've learned that even when I remember the first day I took their hand and took them to school by myself, man. I took them to school, and I remember going to, after they got into the 1st grade, I went to the PTA, the Parents Association in the school, and got voted in to be the president. Right? And I said, well, you know what? I got to participate in my children's education. I got to know what's going on. I want to know what's going on, because you want to know something? Nobody knew what was going on with me. Nobody knew that at some point in my life it was a male cousin. Listen, man, I'll share some things with you. I'll make some men understand that they don't need to write that 4th step and stick it in the drawer and wait 5 years later to do a 5th one. Because let me tell you, if you're waiting 5 years, there's a whole lot of things that happen in 5 years. You better pull it back out and start writing again. The steps do not end here. It's a new beginning. It says it in our book that our first 4th step just merely scratches the surface. That means you need to do a few more. This is not the program that we just live in 10, 11, and 12. This is a 12-step program. I always have to go back to the 1st step and get revised and make that decision again in 3 and all that kind of stuff. I got to keep, listen, the disease can't hit a moving target. Right? We could be out on the street, man, right? I used to tell my friends, stop doing the same thing and going to the same places. You're going to get arrested. You're going to get shot. Something's going to happen because you do the same thing all the time. Change up a little bit. And I've learned in here that the disease can't capture me as fully. A confusion is a great state to be for the disease of addiction. Because when you're confused, it has a shot at getting you. Don't be too confused. I'm afraid of the people that tell me, well, if you can't make a decision, just don't make one. No, get away from them. Get away from that person. Take a step back, go sideways, do something, but just don't stay still. See? And not do nothing. Because nothing don't get it. I have a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, my friend Tony D, that passed away on April 4th. We were best friends. And he used to always say, you know what? When you're doing nothing, you never know when you're finished. Right? Used to say that all the time. And when you're going nowhere, any road will take you there. You know, he used to say that to me all the time, and it's so true. You know, and I've learned that, this is about boot camp. You know, boot camp, right? You know, we do some training and we do some things, and then we become an elite team. This is like, I'm addressing Navy SEALs and Special Forces this morning. I'm addressing people that God took from muck and mire and dirt and filth and holsters and murderers and thieves and prostitutes and brought them to a place of Narcotics Anonymous and make men and women out of you. And they take these people and you know what? And they do what facilities can't do. They take and we raise the dead. We take people from their nightmare. They put us in an H&I meeting and watch what happens. They could sit around a table and discuss the psychological, addictive personalities till they're green. But put a 12-step Narcotics Anonymous member in there and watch how it works. It says, no matter how our disease displays itself, we must take its deadly nature into account. The disease doesn't sleep. The disease already had its committee before you woke up in the morning, and you didn't get elected. You know, there were no abstains. You know, nobody was abstained. It was a complete, downright no. You know, that's what it was. So, you know, we got to pump, man. We got to get right. You got to get locked and loaded. You can't go in a nuclear war with a bayonet. Right? You got to are you armed with the reality to deal with what's going to confront you? And when I talk about what confronts you, is about like the weekend is over. You know, all what you did this weekend, whatever you may have did, right or wrong, you got to go back to the way you were living. What did you take with you? And on a better note, what did you leave here? See, that's what these are all about going back to our life. You know, maybe you didn't pay your I don't know if you got Con Ed out here, or your gas bill. Or maybe you don't, I don't know how it is out here. I know you got a telephone. Maybe you didn't pay your telephone bill. I don't know. And you came to the convention. Hey, you got to go back and pay it. You know, maybe you left your kid and didn't want to leave your kid. You know, maybe you left your wife home and went upstairs with somebody last night. You know, maybe. Ooh. You know, I'm not here to judge you, but you know what? You got to go home. Look in the mirror. You know, and maybe you left your husband home and you went upstairs with somebody. You didn't think you were going to get away with that, did you? Whatever it is, man. Whatever it is that we inflict our pain and what we do to dissatisfy ourselves and create this inadequacy about ourselves and look in the mirror and say, like, I don't like what I see, and that's not where I want to be, and he's better and he's got something, and the grass always looks greener. I've been grateful for what you have. You work so hard for what you got. It doesn't matter if you got 60 days or 60 years. It's your 60 days and it's your 60 years. The pain that you lived is the worst pain because you lived it. I didn't shoot dope. So what? I just smoked reefer. Oh, well, I used to smoke 60 joints a day. You think that was a problem? But I didn't shoot no dope. But I smoked 60 joints a day. Yeah, you got a problem, man. There was an intervention. It was divine. It was a divine intervention. It was an intervention that only a God of a great, glorious power beyond some of us will never understand what that is. That took us from that point to bring us to these doors. Why not? If you bought the ticket, watch the movie. If you're in here, recover. If you're in here, embrace the steps. Don't wonder why you can't stay clean. Well, I wrote a fourth step. Fourth steps don't make you use. They keep you clean. There's something wrong with that equation. The steps are here to put balance and direction in our lives. God is the pivot, is the nucleus of this all. I know there are some people here that have an issue with that and a problem with that, and that's okay. And you can show me in the literature later, about the atheism and all that kind of stuff. But you want to know something? The steps are not going to change. They're not going to change. And the third step talks about God, and the fifth step talks about God. And the sixth and the seventh step talks about God. And the 11th step talks about God. And they were so slick when they wrote this stuff, they put it in the second tradition. So there's enough God in here. You got all the God you have What are you going to do with it? I need more God. I'm sorry. When I was in my 11th step, I was searching. I went on a journey. You know, I was doing all these things. I went to, they were singing on me. I went to all these things. Channeling. Indians, they were in the room, and I had my aura dusted. I went out and bought some crystals and made the moon clean them. You know, we were banging drum. I was that little Brooklyn guy humming to the moon. You know, we were humming and doing all that kind. I said, you know, and I told my sponsor, I don't get this. I'm trying to, you know, I'm in the search. He says, listen, what are you looking for something that you already have? You already have this. I said, those were great experiences. He said, but you already have this. You know, why don't you just cultivate the belief system that you have? If you think it's going to hurt you, that's the question I ask for people that tell me they got a big issue with it. Well, do you think it's going to hurt you? No. Then what's the problem? I used to go down to Avenue A and stick my money in a hole. They used to say, somebody just OD'd though. Where is he? Let me go buy that stuff. You know, I don't want to go over there. They're ODing in this place. I want that stuff. You know? You don't have to do that much. That's where I want to go, because I'm going to do as much as I have to do, you know, to take myself off the count. This is all about life. God breathed a life in us. God, listen, there's a rhyme and a reason why we're here. We're to be unleashed and go into the world. When we care and share with others, the NA way, it says others. It don't say other addicts on our coin. Others means everyone. We are to be the messenger everywhere we go. No matter who comes in our space, no matter where we are, we're the messenger. We're the messenger. We live this message. You know, it's not about talking in lip service, saying a whole lot of stuff, and, you know, are you sharing clean and living dirty? Because you got to share, you know, you got to share clean, live dirty to share clean and live clean. See? The bad choice in here is that we use. Any other choice after that is reconcilable. Even the using part, if you get back here. There's no guarantees on this. You know, any given day. Even me, man. I mean, like, not even me, I'm separate from you. I can wake up one day and just be stupid. You know, and just take some time and go right back down to the dope, man. It don't matter that I'm 53. Don't matter how you are. Regardless of the age. The disease is regardless of, too. Don't matter. Don't matter, like, because you think you're smart or you're in the field. I was in the field, you know, in the field. You know, it sounds like you're running in the field, you know. I'm in the field. Oh, yeah? Okay, yeah. And then, you know, I'm on that 12th step. Oh, yeah? Well, our 12th step don't give a paycheck. That's right. That's a job. See? If I think for 1 minute and mistake and separate myself from this program and think I'm working a 12th step and got all this recovery because I'm in a treatment center, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. Because this 12th step is spiritually rewarding. This is a spiritual check. How much you got invested in the bank of spiritual? How much money do you, how much you have accredited in this bank, man? Can you pull from this bank at a later date? Can you make a withdrawal at a later date? Are you surrounding yourself with people who have your best interest at heart? You know, we want to be, listen, I told so many lies. I told everybody I was in Woodstock. I was never in Woodstock. Right? Yeah, I saw Jimi Hendrix play with his teeth. I used to tell people that. I said I was dropped in the jungles of Vietnam, and I was in the Vietnam War. I was never even in the Army. And when I started writing my 4th step, I used to say, well, I don't know, was I? You know, I don't know. You know, maybe I was. I didn't know. You would rain with the lies and telling myself stuff. Man, yeah, I was in Da Nang. You know, I was on Myrtle Avenue. I walked on the wall of China. I never left my basement. I took a trip that day, man, and I wound up in China. You know, who knows? You know, I used to go to the train station and watch the trains melt into the trains. I said, whoa, you know, like that kind of stuff. Crosses melting and, oh man, all that insanity. You know, and I try to separate the truth. This is a program that separates fantasy from reality. See, fantasy was my first drug. You know, I used to close my eyes and spin around and fall on the floor, and I used to like that stuff. All that stupid stuff. You know, hold my nose and hold my breath, and, you know, until like, you know, we started sniffing glue, and, you know, that we used to do glue years ago, back in the early 60s. You know, I used to tell my mother to buy me a model. right? So like models. They were never built. There was all these boxes of models all over. And then one Christmas, they gave me the Enterprise, the big Enterprise. I had about a case of glue, man, you know? Just go, what's this on your shirt? What is this stuff, you know? And we'd go in the back and go dream. Let's go dream. You know, let's not, why be in the house? I don't dig this. Let's go dream. Let's be somewhere else. Well, I like where I am today, in spite of what sometimes I believe. Sometimes I think I'm not where I'm supposed to be, but I'm right where I'm supposed to be. People go, look at your feet. Where are you? I'm right here. That's where you are, man. That's where you stand. That's what you're doing. You know, I don't have a whole lot, but it says working and living the steps will lead us to a spiritual awakening. And step 1 is the beginning of the spiritual journey. You don't need to be in the 3rd step or the 11th step. It starts with step 1 to start getting spiritual. And what's spiritual is being unconditional. Doing things for people with no hidden agendas and not expecting anything in return. That's a good recovery. That's a good recovery. You know, I used to associate, if I gave you this, I lost it. We don't own nothing. Everything is borrowed. Even your man and your woman. Nothing. We own nothing. See? God put us here and gave us this vehicle to go and carry the message, to be strong ambassadors and emissaries for a God of our understanding, to be a true carrier of the message. Our program talks about in our literature to be a sufficient messenger. Sufficiency means 12 steps. You know, I buy into, like, if you got 2 days, you could tell the guy with 1 day, but would you bring your 4th step to the guy with 1 day? I don't think so. See? So, we can get real tricky with the stupid things that we say around here and, major decisions in the first year. Well, you know what? If I'm living in a refrigerator box underneath the Tappan Zee Bridge, I got to stay there a whole year and not move anywhere. That's a major decision. We got to watch what we say to people around here. Now, don't get in no relationships. This is a program that's all about relationships. Relationships with your father and your mother and your sister and your brother and your aunt and your uncle and your job and your friends and God. It's all about that. Saying stuff, making up stuff. We read this stuff in and out, and ain't nothing like that in here. Nothing. So, like we try to recreate the creation, just like I tried to do when I started using, made perfect by a perfect creator, and I say stuff like that because, you know what, I know I wasn't hatched from an egg, that somewhere along the line that a God had put something together to make me special. And you want to know something? What you need to understand is that you're the same special person. If you have a hold on God, the hardest thing you're going to do is to believe that the person next to you has the same God. Made that same person. And that's what this program has taught me to do in my 6th and 7th step, is to believe, not only to believe that I'm a child of God, but to believe that you are, which is hard sometimes. But I have to do that, because that's what puts me on the path. See? And I don't stray too far from the path. And the bottom line is that what I've learned here this weekend is something I'll take. I came with less and I'll leave with more. Only because you've been so gracious to me. And it's not about... It's the 12th step that you made on me this weekend. It wasn't about the ticket and all that stuff and, the podium. And I've done this 1,000 million times. It doesn't matter. There's no podiums in the prison. And the H&I commitments, which are the most favorite places to go and carry the message. I remember going to Sing Sing and talking to 85 inmates, and half of them were lifers with a pump rifle in the back. And I told them, you know what? And the guy was screaming, we're lifers, man. We're lifers. I said, so you don't have to use. You don't have to use. And have some faith, because you never know. I sponsor a guy that did 15 years in Rahway prison. He was on death row. We're about to get electrocuted. In 2 months, he's going to be a PhD. You explain that. So there's always faith and hope. See? It's just to increase it, and we're strong in numbers, and we pull together, and we're all we got. Can't sling stuff at each other. I don't use profanity when I speak. I'm not about that, because I believe that sometimes profanity closes some people down, and I want everybody to be open, to catch something, The profanity stuff is all about ego anyway. And I do it. I'm not saying that I don't, but I don't do it up here. I've learned how to condition myself not to try to carry a clear message that people can listen, and sometimes there's children in the room too, I'd like to share this other thing before I close about the success of me being a father. I have a son, and he's 14 years old. His name is Christian, and I love him dearly. I love him so much. I don't love my kids. I'm in love with my kids, and he plays football. And what started out, I sat my kid down and I told him early on, I says, listen, man, what sport do you want to play? And I says, because you're going to play a sport. No matter what it is, what you want to do, but we're going to do it because we need some direction. We need some guidance here, And he said, I want to play football. And he was 8 years old. He started out at 8 years old. And we went into this league, and he played, and he got real good, and he found his ability to play football. And he was 3 years strong in that league as a quarterback, and he brought that league to a undefeated record for the first time in 26 years. And we got trophies. I don't even know where to put them anymore. And then he got recruited by a high school, which is very unusual back in New York. They would come to the awards dinners, and this coach kept telling me, where's your son going to go? And where's your son going to go? And I said, I don't know. He was in parochial schools his whole life. I had him in Catholic school, and one of the schools called up, Bishop Ford High School had called me and had told me that we can't give incentives because it's against the law, but we could do something with your money as far as the tuition's concerned, and we'd like to have him come if he would like to come. And we signed up, and this coach called me again from the other school that was out of the zone, which is the prime football program in my area, in Brooklyn, New York, which they won the championship a few years. He's very close with Penn State and Nebraska and Michigan State and Southern Crimson Tide and all that kind of thing. Very, very, very prominent man. Very, very, very structured, polite, respectful coach, And I asked Chris, where you want to go? He said, I'd love to play for him. And we took us, he waived everything and brought him into the school, and he's playing freshman ball, and he played 2 years with the Junior Player Development Program sponsored by the NFL, And, it's like, that's a direct reflection of how I'm living. I never missed a practice. I never missed a game. I get up every morning when he's got to go to practice, and I make sure that he eats, and I make sure he prays before he goes. And when he went with that undefeated system that season, we got on our knees. He'd gear up, and we'd sit and kneel, and we never prayed for a win. Because I've learned in here to be unselfish with the prayer. We got on our hands and knees, and I'd say, just pray for no injuries, and just do your best when you get out there. And I tell my children to be the champion in your life. See yourself on the Wheaties box. Don't ever lose your dream. Grab your goals, man. Go for it. Even if they're unattainable, it doesn't matter. At least you're on your way to something. For something that I never had. I always wanted to play ball. And now we got called, and this is like really serious. He's 14 years old, I want you to know. He's 14 years old, and one of the receivers from the varsity team, and he plays for junior varsity, got called for 5 days for a recruitment vehicle and special skills coaching at Penn State. He's 14. I was in Brooklyn House of Detention when I was 14 years old. I was shooting dope already, I talked to a friend of mine. He was telling me my daughter's not home yet. My daughter's not home yet. I go, what time is it? 11. He goes, where's your daughter? She's sleeping. She's downstairs sleeping. I know she's downstairs sleeping. You're an extension of the God you believe in. And whatever you're doing in your home and what you're raising in your house is an extension of you. See? I try to do the best I can with what I got. And when we do the best, we got a lot. We're special. You have no idea how special you are. I want to drill it into people that use exciting and use a beautiful and special. And God don't make junk. He don't make junk. Took some mad choices and went off on somewhere. But you know what? You're back. You're here. You leave, it's by your own choice. You stay. No matter what. No matter if you're afflicted with we got an AIDS problem back home, people dying and all kinds of stuff, and diabetes and cancer and all kinds. It doesn't matter. You don't have to get high. No matter what's going on in your life. No matter what, you don't use. And it's as simple. I could get here and read this book and say all kinds of stuff, and the bottom line is that no matter what, you don't get loaded. You don't get loaded because you have two problems, and more than likely the second one is the one that's not going to come to any kind of solution soon. See? So, they told me in the beginning, if you don't pick up, you won't get it. I've been on psychiatrists' couches and counselors in school, and no one ever told me that. No one ever said if you go cop, you're going to get high. What a revelation. I couldn't understand that. They always told me that, you know what, you're going to be in Rikers Island before you're 17. They were right. You're going to the electric chair. What? I had his counselor tell me that in FDR High School. You're going to go to the electric chair. I went, what? The electric chair? I'm only trying to pass history. You know? Gotta watch what we say. Be involved in your family's lives. This is about family. If you could do something and get out of your house 2 o'clock in the morning for the newcomer, you could be there for your wife or your girlfriend or your mom or your dad or your cousin or your whatever it is. We're the ones with the program. See, we're the ones that have to work a program, not them. They don't have one. You know? And if we believe in what we're doing here, then that's the way to roll. So you know what? I give you my love, and it's a profound courage and a profound statement for the people that are inflicted with illnesses and that are not using. My heart goes out, you know, because I've been to people in hospices back in New York, and they'd be in the bed dying and telling me, don't get high. That's amazing to me, you know. So, like, if we do this together, we stay together. The family that prays together stays together. I was told that when I was a kid, and it's true today. We start our meetings with the Word God, and we end our meetings with the Word God in the Serenity Prayer, you know. I want to tell Arizona that it's been an awesome weekend for me. You know, everyone that has came in my space has left a piece of them with me. I will take that home. It has encouraged and graced my recovery, you know, to be here. And, you know, you people are very special people. I've been to a lot of places where everybody's special, but, you know, I felt a lot of sincerity here this weekend. I'm telling you that from the bottom of my heart. So I tell you, Arizona Regional Convention number 18, you know what? You did a great job. You know, I think everybody should give it up for the committee that took the time out from their families. You know? I've been there with that, you know, the service and all that kind of stuff, and I've learned that, you know, sometimes service is best held at home, you know, and working this program. So I tell you, thank you very, very much for having me. I'm an addict named Richie, and I love you, Arizona. What are we doing now?
Not sure here. Not too sure.